Hi and welcome to October 2020 Patreon rewards video. So, all right, let's get to it. This month I finally got to finish my comic strip. So here it is and it did go faster than I thought it would. So that's great. So here's the reward. You're going to get this version of it, but just so that you can see a slightly tighter version of. There we go. So now you can see a little bit more of the drawing. So yeah, it took much less time to do. There was only 4 panels and not a whole lot going on in it. One of the things I think I've talked about this before, but I did blur the background in order because the background's so busy and has so much detail that it tends to overwhelm the foreground, the actual point of the characters talking and stuff. So I started kind of blurring the background a little bit more just to get rid of too much detail. It's still more of an implication of the background, more of what it really kind of is without having to necessarily see all the things, right? So that was what I was doing here. I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to. Well, I haven't actually. Usually, as soon as I'm done with a comic strip, I almost immediately start with the next one. But I didn't this time, and I will talk to you why in a second. So here's this panel, and again, blurry backgrounds, and there we go. So that's the comic strip. So everybody's gonna get a high res version of this. All right, so moving on. So this is the reason why I didn't really go straight into doing a comic right away. I've been trying to working on, figure out how to draw a Gundam. Because it's so complicated to me. It was just overwhelmingly complicated. And so I went to my sketchbook and I started trying to break it down, trying to figure out what it is that makes this character look like the character, how to build it, because there's so many little details that I got kind of caught up in them. So what I ended up doing was I actually was on Pinterest and I found a breakdown of a mecha, and it was really basic, and it occurred to me that I hadn't done that. Like I was getting lost in all the detail, and I forgot the most basic of all the rules, which is simplify everything and then build details on top of the simplified thing rather than go straight into the details. And that was again the problem. Like you'd think that I'd know this because this is how I draw everything, but for some reason when I was drawing the mobile suits, this didn't occur to me. So I went, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. So I started going back and I started rethinking the way I approached it in the correct way. So here, let me show you what I mean. So here I've got, see how in here I have a head? So I actually drew a dude wearing a helmet. Like that was the idea. Like I drew a guy wearing a helmet, and this is like a very simple, here's the guy's head. And then the idea here being that there's he's just got this helmet on, and here, but this is the actual helmet, and it goes around and it covers his face, and he's got like this like ninja mask, like a domino mask, and then like his nose comes out. And so that's basically what I did. I drew a guy wearing a helmet and with a domino mask, and then I have, and that's in essence the what the Gundam breakdown is, and then you put all this other stuff in it. So the thing that really is actually the most difficult part about drawing these things is this kind of front hair gear, and you have to simplify that too. So after I solved that, I decided to see if I could draw another tighter drawing from a very different angle, and so I played around, and this is the RX 93 new Gundam from Char's Counterattack, which is one of my favorites. I've got like 4 that I really like, and this is one of them. So here was my experiment using a very different thing. And up at this point, I hadn't really solved the body problem. The body is a completely different thing. And it wasn't until, and so I decided, because I hadn't figured out, and here's the drawing. I hadn't figured out how to do the body. The head just in and of itself was tricky enough for me. Just start kind of breaking down and trying to figure out how it worked. So here's another drawing, and at this point, I started really figuring it out. Like at this point, I started finally getting very comfortable with the formula. And the most difficult part about drawing the mobile suit, once you figure out the formula, is figuring out what the details of the specific mobile suit you're working on, right? And it's really helpful to have an actual model kit. I haven't built this, but this was really helpful because I get to see all the little details and stuff, and then like, and right now what I'm using for the detail, and this I didn't have this when I was drawing these drawings. I will show you, but they got all these really interesting panels and things like that I didn't end up drawing in my final. But this is a much more detailed version than the animated model sheet that I was working off of. And so I was still kind of, that to me was the thing. What is it that makes this particular mobile suit different than the RX-78 and all these other, the Strike Gundam and all of these other Gundams? Each one has its own particular details, and you kind of have to look up what makes each one look like they do. You don't want to just kind of draw whatever, unless you're just making it up, which is fine. So here is the formula. So once I realized that I needed to break everything down, there was a painting that I wanted to do, and the painting, as I was sketching it out, was a mess. And so it was a mess because it was the very first time that I was going to work on the body. And when I was drawing it, I was going, again, straight to detail. And because of that, it looked warped. It was all screwed up. The perspective wasn't working. Nothing was working. It was just an awful, horrible mess. And then I said, you know what? I came to a screeching stop. I went back to my sketchbook, and because I thought after I drew this drawing that I was so confident that I could just go straight and do a final piece, which was a mistake. I needed to still work out some stuff. So what I did was, here's the formula. Here's the guy's head, and he's wearing this kind of shaped helmet like this. This is basically the underlying structure of all the Gundam. And then I drew this kind of body shape. And this body shape here, like I drew a box here, or a box, but it's a long box, right? And then once you draw this box in perspective, Then you break it up into the shapes. And what I did was I had this toy, and I was looking at it, and I would turn it, and I would look at it, and this is, you know, the RX-78, the original Granddaddy Gundam from Mobile Suit Gundam TV show, the animated TV show. And what this does is it helps break down every single Gundam ever, right? Because this is the Granddaddy, this is where it all started, but it's also the most basic, the most simple Gundam design. It has nothing, there's nothing super fancy about it. It's really, really simple because it was meant to be in an animated show in the 1970s, late 1970s. They were trying to get this stuff through fast. It needed to be simple enough to animate. And so he's really actually very, very simple. And because of that, every Gundam is based off of these general shapes. So what I did was I used this as the base that I would use for every Gundam that I would ever draw, and then I would just add the new details on top of this basic structure. So after I drew the box, I broke down the box into the RX-78 body shapes. And then, let me see. And so I gave myself a little bit of a breakdown. See, so here the shoulders are going to be a box. This is going to be a box. Here's a box. This slope starts at the neck. This slope keeps coming down and it goes beyond the box, and it attaches down here to the bottom of this body part here. It attaches basically to the waist, to the part of the waist. The waist is also a long box, right? Here is the Gundam helmet. Here's the Gundam helmet. It's got like this kind of fin in the back here. And then usually there's like a vent coming out here on the sides and stuff, but this is the general shapes of every Gundam ever. And so this helped me out. Like I said, like I went in and I was sketching all these things out, the most basic shapes I could find and then I could build on top of that. That was the most important part, was breaking everything down into the most basic shapes so I could handle doing the drawing. And once I did that, everything kind of came together. It was much easier, and the only thing that took time was looking up at, again, what details make the specific Gundam you're making look like that specific model of Gundam. So let me show you the painting that or the drawing I ended up with. So this is the drawing I ended up with. Here's in my sketchbook. I was drawing it here. This is my watercolor sketchbook. And it's nerve-wracking when you're going straight in. Like usually when I'm going to be doing a drawing, I'd like to have one sheet of paper where I just sketch and scribble and mess up, and then another sheet of paper where I just transfer all the final lines to. When I'm drawing on my sketchbook, I don't have that luxury. I just go straight in and I just layer many layers, and then erase, and then another layer and erase. And usually what I do is I do a pencil pass, a color pencil pass, and then I go straight to final ink from the rough pencil pass. Well, because this was me doing something that I wasn't comfortable with, that I hadn't done before, I decided that I didn't trust myself to go straight into a final line with ink. So I went and I did a rough pass, and then after the rough pass, I went in with a mechanical pencil, and I did final lines with a mechanical pencil. And I'm glad I did it, because there was a lot of trial and error, trying to find, oh, this is not the right place. Oh, this is not the right place. Oh, over here, maybe this is. Oh, okay, this is not. And so there was a lot of adjusting on my rough. with the mechanical pencil. Once I nailed down exactly the lines where they needed to be, then I went in with uh, not with a micron. Usually I would go in with a micron pen, but the thing about working at home is that I have more tools to use, and so I decided to use instead my Crow Quill dip pen, which gives me an extremely fine line like a micron, and but has the added advantage of allowing me to thick and thin the lines a little bit more if I want. In the end, I didn't. I decided not to do that, but I'm glad I used the quill. Unfortunately, somewhere along the way, I smudged the ink. So around this area here, there's like some smudged ink. You could kind of see a little bit of it there, but I painted over it. I said, okay, well, I'm going to paint this, so it's not a big deal. And I could paint over it, which I did. And unless you were really looking out for it, you wouldn't be able to see it. But and then I went in and I painted it, and the painting process in and of itself was very difficult or tricky, not because of the where I wanted to put the shadows and all that stuff was really easy, because it's a robot. It's much easier to know where to put the lights and the darks. What was actually difficult for me was the colors, because the Gundams are generally white and blue, but this is a white sheet of paper. So how do I make white look white on white paper? So I needed to make a gray, make it look a little bit more gray, and make it off white. And my palette is made out of these. So these are this is a watercolor palette that I was using. This is my watercolors, and the one thing that you'll notice is that there is no such thing as black. There's no black in my palette. I just don't use black. And I found and the reason I don't use black is because I found that every single time I try to use black, my stuff looks like mud. So black is not my friend. So in order to make an off-white gray, I needed to create gray by mixing two complementary colors. And in order to make the black of this main thing, I needed to create the black out of complementary colors. And the tricky part was making a light version, a gray version of this that was darker than the off-white, but dark enough so that you could tell that it was black. And so that, to me, like just doing that, the way that I tend to paint is that I tend to mix the paint mostly on the painting itself as I'm painting it. So I put like a layer of brown or a layer of blue, and then I put brown on it, and then another blue layer, and then I just layer over and over, and I'm mixing, layering on top of layer on top of layer, and I'm mixing on the paper. This time, and I don't always mix in the palette, because one of the reasons why I sometimes don't do that is because it ends up, when you mix and you mix and you mix, you end up putting so much water in order to mix it, that the watercolors don't come out very strong. It's not thick enough. It doesn't come out hard so when you're putting the paint, it ends up being a very diluted color. So that's kind of why I tend to go a little bit more direct, straight to the painting, and putting the paint on the paper, and then layering, because it gives me a richer, darker value to the paint that I'm using. So because and here's the other thing that kind of threw me off. I'm so used to drawing or painting now people, and because I tend to draw people, I usually start with more of a red umber, more of an umber. Anytime that I'm doing um, a painting of a person, when I start doing the preliminary shadow patterns, I tend to do a brown layer, like a brown umber layer, right? And that's how I start. This time, but that's because in the end, when you're painting skin, even at its darkest, there's a tint of warmness. There's a tint of redness in the skin because of the subsurface scattering. Because skin is translucent, and even when and if a little bit of light gets in there, the subsurface scattering makes things warmer. So even in the darkest, there's still a little bit of red, like a little bit, right? And that's what makes the skin look luminous and natural. This is not skin. This is a robot. So it was different. Like, so I ended up using blue instead, a blue undercoat, a blue shadow coat. And that this threw me off. Like I had a little bit more of a difficult time trying to balance these colors and make them feel right to me. And I'm not 100% sure I succeeded. Something about the painting is a little bit muted to me. I'm not sure if I've succeeded. So, but this was my first attempt. I am working on another drawing. So that's now of another Gundam, and I'm going to keep trying to experiment because I found that this was an extremely tedious drawing to do. And I mean, usually I hate tedious drawings. I hate drawings that take a long time to just do all these little things. There was something about doing this, doing a mecha that didn't bother me that didn't bother me. This didn't bother me. Like doing the tiny details didn't bother me. In fact, it was about the details. It's what makes it interesting. And if anything, I didn't put enough details. Like if you go back and look at that model that was holding, the model of the box that I held up, that has a ton of detail. This is actually more of the animated model sheet. This is what the animated model sheet looks like. These are the details in the animated version of this particular Gundam. The next one that I'm going to do is going to be more based off of the model. So I'm going to try to put those details in there and learn how to do that for that. Okay. So, and lastly, I just wanted to talk about this month's postcard. So this month's postcard is this. This is the postcard for this month, and this is going back. Going back to doing a human being was tricky. Like I had to rethink, rewire my head. For some reason, it actually took a little bit of time to wrap my head around how to start drawing not start drawing, but start painting skin again, and whether or not. So it was a kind of a strange thing to go back to doing a person, which is kind of odd. I didn't expect that, but I think I'll be able to handle the switch moving forward. But here's this month's postcard, and the winner of this month's postcard is Shopping for Noobs. So, congratulations, Shopping for Noobs. This is probably what, the sixth time you've won one of my postcards. So, congratulations. And I will be sending this off as soon as I can. Uh, and that's it from me. Hopefully, you got a lot out of this. And thank you for your support. I really, really, really appreciate it. Um, you're helping me out a lot. Seriously, thank you so much. And I will talk to you next time. All right, bye.